Hello. Hello, motherfuckers. Hello. Be right back, bro. Just gotta use the bathroom. Sorry. think I'm missing, bros. Get started. Alrighty, bros. Oh. Let's drop building that. That is cholesterol.
Battle starts.
Autopilot mode enabled.
Awaiting instructions.
Don't fire at your allies.
Enemy force sighted on the horizon. Enemy battleship sighted. Enemy cruiser sighted.
Autopilot mode disabled.
Enemy battleship detected.
Enemy heavily damaged. Torpedoes, direct front. Ship is on fire. Problem solved, sir. Bullseye.
We've destroyed an enemy battleship.
The ship is on fire. sir.
Autopilot mode enabled.
Enemy cruiser foundered. You are the last hope.
Destination reached. Autopilot mode disabled.
The enemy is about to win.
The ship is on fire. Problem solved, sir. Torpedo tubes destroyed. The ship is on fire.
Autopilot mode enabled.
A law that could lead to TikTok being banned in the U.S. as soon as tomorrow. That is, unless it's sold to a company here in the U.S. Fox News multimedia reporter Olivia Economies tells us this has some creators and small business owners worried.
Business owners I spoke with said they're nervous and they've already started moving their online presence to other platforms before the ban.
We haven't had to even explore like other platforms or options because TikTok has propelled it to sell us out every time we stop.
Jana Rogers and her husband built their tea company with the community they grew on TikTok, and they now rely on the app.
Probably somewhere around like 60 to 70% of our family's income comes from all social media, which is primarily TikTok at this point driven.
Single flavor packets are now available in 30 flavors.
She's unsure what'll happen if a ban takes effect.
I don't know what that's going to result in other platforms. I don't know how it will translate.
Last year, President Biden signed a law giving the government authority to ban foreign-owned apps that pose a national security threat. The Supreme Court recently heard arguments over whether the ban is constitutional. This is all because of the concerns the Chinese government could access Americans' personal data through TikTok and use it to spread misinformation. As creators brace for the possibility of TikTok's shutdown, many, like Madison Raleigh, are trying other Chinese apps like Xiaohongshu or Redno.
With Redno, from what I hear, it's an amazing algorithm and functions very similarly, but I also feel like you're not having that global reach because it is primarily Chinese and now American as your main audiences.
But making money on that app isn't guaranteed, and Redno could also find themselves in jeopardy if they're considered a national security threat.
I definitely know the market. Wherever one app closes, another app door is open. So wherever the majority of my audience goes, I'll likely follow suit.
There are a lot of questions about workarounds for U.S. users, like using a VPN, but it's still unclear what exactly we'll see on the app come Sunday. In St. Louis, Missouri, Olivia Economies, Fox News.
Looking ahead, do you want to say so long to TikTok? Well, you may want to head to Piedmont Park tomorrow. They're expecting to see a big crowd for TikTok in the park. TikTok fans are using the event as a possible final goodbye to the popular app. A promoter we spoke with says there'll be lots of music, food, and entertainment.
Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who does everything for you. Who can do your taxes in a day. So you can get up to $4,000 instantly. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax.
Today, TikTok set to be banned in the United States tomorrow, and we're less than 48 hours away from President-elect Trump's second inauguration, now moved indoors due to dangerously cold weather forecast for Monday. But we begin in Gaza, where the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas is supposed to take effect tomorrow morning. But some developments this afternoon could put that deal at risk. Good afternoon, I'm John Scott, and this is the new expanded Fox Report. Coordinator Nathan Sales, but first, Mike Tobin, live in Tel Aviv with the very latest. Mike.
And John, where I am now is an area that's come to be known as Hostage Square, where a demonstration is wrapping up. At the same time, there's a demonstration taking place on Kaplan Street, very near the Kiryat, Israel's version of the Pentagon. These demonstrations are simply because emotions are running so high ahead of what could be the end of this hostage ordeal, or the beginning of the end of the hostage ordeal. But it's been a very difficult process, so that it's not surprising that there was a hang-up here at the last minute. And the hang-up is that Hamas missed a deadline to turn over the identities of the 3 women who are supposed to be released tomorrow. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made the statement that unless they comply, the deal doesn't move forward, and that means the ceasefire does not move forward. Late this evening, we just got a word through El Arabiya that Hamas now says that the names will be turned over as soon as the women are moved to a safe location. Now, Prime Minister Netanyahu took to the airways and addressed the nation of Israel today, saying that the ceasefire and prisoner exchange, hostage exchange, is only made possible because of the force that Israel turned on their enemies, decimating Hamas, not only Hamas, but Hezbollah, therefore leaving Hamas isolated and willing to negotiate. And that's how he says they got to this deal. Now, the hostages are to be turned over after 12:30 local time tomorrow. They won't be sent directly home. They have set up some reception points. The Army has built these reception points, comfortable places where the women who are released will receive some preliminary examinations. After an unspecified amount of time, they'll ultimately be moved to hospitals where they will be reunited with their families. But as you mentioned, it all starts at 8:30 in the morning and begins with a ceasefire that's supposed to last 42 days. After noon, the 3 women are expected to be released. Over this 42-day period, over this 42-day preliminary ceasefire, you're supposed to see a total of 33 hostages released. Women, children, and men over the age of 50. Also, aid trucks will roll into Gaza, and Israeli forces are supposed to move out of the population centers. That's phase 1 of a 3-phase process that could lead to the end of this war. John?
Let's hope. Mike Tobin in Tel Aviv. Mike, thanks. For more on the ceasefire deal, let's bring in Nathan Sales, former ambassador at large and counterterrorism coordinator under the first Trump administration. Why now? Why is this ceasefire deal coming into effect just days before the Trump administration returns to office?
Well, John, I think you put your finger on it right there. I think there's 2 factors that led to this deal being concluded here at the 11th hour. The deal's been out there in the public domain for months and months, but something changed. And the 2 things that changed were, 1, Donald Trump got reelected as president, and that sent an unmistakable signal to Israel and the rest of the world that we have Israel's back. And that makes it easier for Israel to take some risks. And there's risks with any deal you make with terrorist organizations. A deal with the devil is going to inevitably involve risks. But if the United States has Israel's back, Netanyahu and his government are prepared to do what's necessary to get their people back. And second of all, the second thing that's changed is Israel has subjected Hamas and its terrorist allies and its patrons in Iran to an unrelenting campaign of military pressure, eliminating leaders, eliminating foot soldiers, and Israel has been able to accomplish many of its war aims, enabling it to take steps now to wind down hostilities and get its people back.
We know that some of the hostages have been killed by Hamas, even seconds before they were supposed to be, or potentially could have been rescued. How do we know how many are actually remaining?
Well, we don't really know, John, and tomorrow is going to be an emotionally very difficult day for Israel as hostages start to come out, because we're going to find out about what's happened to them in those terror tunnels for the past 400 plus days. Some people have been killed, as you said, on the precipice of being rescued. The ones who survived were certainly brutalized and subjected to inhumane treatment by these Hamas savages. So this all goes to show the price that Israel is prepared to pay. There's a social compact in Israel. We will get you back, even if we have to pay an enormous price. And I think what we're going to see tomorrow is a reopening of the wounds of October 7th for Israel. As they celebrate the return of these hostages, they're also going to feel intense emotional turmoil over what has been taken from them.
Yeah, and the balance is not exactly equal. It's roughly 2,000 Hamas militants and arrestees who are going to be released in exchange for these first 33 hostages, right?
That's right. And these are the worst of the worst. Some of the people who will be released from Israeli prisons, I mean, let's be clear, these are not peaceful protesters or political prisoners. These are hardened terrorists in many cases, people who have been convicted before Israeli courts of committing murder and other crimes of violence. And so as they are returned to the battlefield, there's a real risk that they're going to do what terrorists always do, and that is pick up an AK-47 and hunt down Jews and Israelis. So I think Israel is going to keep an eye on these folks, and it's significant. They're not being sent to the West Bank. They're going to be sent, as we understand, into Gaza, a war zone. And so if they do something stupid and pick up a rifle, I'm sure the Israelis are going to be watching.
President Biden, in his farewell address, said that, he seemed to sort of take credit for this deal and said it was exactly the same terms that he had presented months ago. Is that accurate? And if so, why again is this deal coming to fruition so late in the Biden administration?
Well, President Biden may believe that, and some of the advisors around him, even they may believe it, but I don't think anybody in the Middle East thinks that the Biden administration should be spiking the football with this deal. It's clear to everybody in Israel, everybody in the Middle East, that Donald Trump's election and his threat to unleash hell on Hamas is what really created the momentum that enabled this deal to get done. So, ultimately it doesn't matter who gets the credit. What matters is that Israel is going to get its people back. But there's something a little unseemly about President Biden smirking at the camera and asking if it's a joke that President Trump had a role here in bringing these hostages home.
Let's hope they all come home, whatever the number might be. Ambassador Nathan Sales, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
In just over an hour, President-elect Trump will fly from Mar-a-Lago in Florida to Washington. He has a packed schedule of festivities leading up to Monday's inauguration. Lawmakers say they'll be paying close attention to Trump's speech on Monday. South Dakota Senator Mike Rounds on that in moments. But first, we have Fox team coverage. David Spunt is on Capitol Hill, where preparations are almost complete. But let's begin with Alexandria Hoff in Sterling, Virginia, where President-elect Trump will attend a special celebration at his golf club this evening. Alex.
Hi, John. Yeah, all the pageantry, all the pomp and circumstance is finally going to begin once the president-elect makes his way to his golf course, his Trump National Golf Club, about 30 miles outside of D.C. this evening. There will be a formal reception tonight, followed by a fireworks display. But all of these festivities, they've been tightly bookended by the actual work that goes into a presidential transition. It's leading right up to the edge here. For example, yesterday, Supreme Court ruling in favor of the law that bans TikTok tomorrow. The president-elect telling NBC today that he's most likely going to give the app a 90-day extension, potentially making that announcement just hours after being sworn in. TikTok CEO Shou Chew will be among the big tech names like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos sitting in on Monday's ceremony. The president-elect discussing TikTok among other topics with Chinese President Xi Jinping yesterday. And that involves national security, as does immigration. Incoming border czar Tom Homan confirming to Fox News today that immigration raids will begin in several cities the day after the president-elect is sworn in. So Tuesday, the focus will be on individuals who are public safety threats. Here's Homan.
They're going to be targeted enforcement operations. So when ICE goes out, they're going to know exactly who they're looking for, pretty much where they'll find him. It's a well-planned operation. So we're going to do this with or without their help. I'm sure we'll be sued, but bring it. They're not going to stop us. They're not going to bully us from doing this job.
Yeah, in this job, they want to hit the ground running, as of many other topics and issues that the campaign has been promising. We've seen some people already showing up here outside of the golf club, hoping to, I guess, see the president-elect in several hours. Again, fireworks this evening. Tomorrow, the president-elect is going to attend a ceremony at Arlington Cemetery. After that, he's going to have a victory rally. So a lot coming up, John.
Very busy time in Washington, D.C. Alexandria Hoff, thanks.
Thanks.
So preparations are almost complete for President-elect Trump's inauguration on Monday. The ceremony moved indoors because of expected dangerously low temperatures. David Spunt is live at the Capitol Mall in Washington. David.
John, the moment that it was announced that this inauguration was going to be moved inside, Secret Service, FBI, others began making alternative security plans. Of course, plans are constantly changing because of this, and the security perimeter and barrier may change a little bit. But the ultimate overall security footprint is going to remain the same for the thousands that are expected in Washington, D.C. We already have a crowd today of people coming from all over the country. We were there when crews were putting up some fences earlier this week, putting up those black anti-climb fences. Those were seen around the Capitol, especially before the inauguration and for several months after the inauguration in 2021, largely because of the attack on the Capitol in January 2021. Also, John, signs seen across the District of Columbia, specifically, though, the National Mall, that tell people exactly where to be, specifically on the mall, telling people area closed, do not enter. The FBI, Secret Service, Park Police, D.C. Police also working together. And this is interesting, John. We worked with the Secret Service and joined them in suburban Maryland at their training facility earlier this week as they prepared, you see right there, the presidential beast and other vehicles to move the limousine for the parade between the Capitol and the White House. It appears that some of that is going to change because of the weather, but you see one of the gentlemen wearing the vests right there is wearing a sign that says POTUS, meaning President of the United States, so planning for all contingencies, but clearly some of that will now change now that we have these temperatures and wind chill temperatures even lower. But the bottom line, the Secret Service and Inaugural Committee, John, working to try to keep as many traditions as possible in place for Inauguration Day, even though most of these events are now going to be inside. John.
And the real cold hasn't hit yet, right?
Not yet. It's in the 40s today. It's not terrible. If it did, you'd see something different probably I would be wearing. But it's supposed to be in the 20s with wind chills in the teens. And that's what people are concerned about, having thousands of people standing out on the National Mall for hours in those frigid temperatures.
We want everybody to stay safe and warm, including you, David Spunt. Thanks very much.
Me too.
Meanwhile, Congress is also getting ready to begin work on the Trump agenda. One of the first orders of business after all of the formalities, illegal immigration. South Dakota Senator Mike Rounds sits on the Senate Armed Services, Intelligence, and Appropriations Committees. Senator, it's good of you to be with us on this Saturday. What do you expect to see? It's being telegraphed that there are going to be raids in cities like Chicago on the day after the Trump inauguration. Is that what you're expecting?
Promises made, promises kept. He's hitting the ground running. He told the American people that he would make sure that they're safe. He told them that he would go back in and the guys that are causing the problems, the criminals, he would go directly after. And that's exactly what he's doing. In the meantime, our job is to make sure that he's got the resources to be able to defend the border, to clean it up, the wall, the security systems, and the manpower. He'll also need some facilities that are large enough to hold if there are people trying to get across the border in the future. And the Remain in Mexico policy has got to be enforced. The other piece of this, though, is we've got to do a lot of this with reconciliation, and that's what we'll be working on right away. which is to, number one, promote energy production within the United States. Number two, to bring the revenue in to be able to pay for all of those things that we want to do along the wall. And then finally, to improve our defensive capabilities, all of which are critical if we're going to